Now, I know there's a
Right.
couple of things that we want to talk about, but I would like to show you something. I want
Okay.
to show you how far I descend into architectural nerdism.
The descent continues. Okay. Blackwing volumes. Tell me about this. Tell me what this is. This thing I don't know about. Is that
It is
that
the
Frank?
Frank Lloyd Wright Special Edition Blackwing pencils.
I can hear the pencils. Can you give those a little shake? Nice.
They come
This
in.
is super nerdy.
This is
Who
super
needs
nerdy.
this? Who needs this?
Nice special black.
For those of you listening, you don't get to see the unboxing happening in front of us at the moment here.
And then the special Frank Lloyd Wright inspired designs on the side of the pencil.
What's the name of Frank's red? How come I can't
Cherokee
remember this?
Red.
Thank you. So how come the box isn't Cherokee red? Jeez.
Well, because
Come on,
it's
Frank.
Blackwing. That is
there
their.
you go.
That is the,
That-
the brand
I
of
could
the,
see that could be confusing for people. Okay.
but it has the Cherokee Red Frank Lloyd Wright logo on it.
I will
And
allow it.
the special picture, and then a nice little story about Frank on one side and what the pencils, the Frank Lloyd Wright pattern. It's more of like the patterns that you would see on the clear story of his Usonian houses. If you're familiar with those.
No, I'm not, but
Well, you
I'll
need
look
to
it
get out more often there, pal.
well, that's true. as I write with my Frank Lloyd Wright Acme fountain pen. here.
There you go.
I did refill it finally.
See?
Yeah.
And
Just so you know, I'm taking analog notes back on the analog and the notebook.
right. And just so you know, because the last time I purchased Blackwing pencils, and this is the last of the Blackwing pencils that I purchased.
Hold that eraser up to the lens. I want to this is
Let's see where it's- I'm
this
gonna
is
put it
a
in front.
super nerdy pencil.
Yes, where you take the
That's like an artist brush
the
of an
eraser out and you can extend
What?
it or stuff like that. And
Oh my gosh.
so these aren't cheap for a box of 12.
Huh?
Just these aren't they're about on par with maybe a box of 60 number 2 Ticonderogas for a
Okay.
box of
And
12.
how many are in there?
12.
Okay.
But
So it's a 5x. It's a 5x
but
spend
the
here.
special Frank Lloyd Wright one. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I had a box of these and told the kids to don't use them. They're my special pencils. Don't use my special pencils.
Did you catch someone using your special
They
pencil?
used all of them. All of them.
They must be damn good.
I got
So,
no, they're just like,
The
well, I couldn't find
fastest
a
way,
pencil.
Cormac, the fastest way to give yourself a raise is to cut expenses. I'm just saying.
You mean kids? I mean expenses.
Cut them off.
But this one, this special architecturally nerdy box is, go ahead and guess.
How much?
Yeah, shipping and handling.
Oh, God, $35.
Pretty close. Well, $35 plus shipping and handling. So yes.
That's like $3 a pencil, $4 a pencil. Jeez. Yeah. So
Which
this is funny
means
because
please leave them alone, kids. Don't touch my dang
Yeah.
pencils.
you got to put them in your safe. So with this box though now, like okay, if you get a box of Ticonderogas,
Yeah.
you can literally recycle the box. This
Sure.
box, you're not getting rid of this box. Now
not
you've
getting rid of
got
this box.
some keepsake of a box that
There
you've
you
got
go.
that your children have to deal with someday.
He'll be like,
Experience.
just be like, chuck that
They will chuck it.
Frank Lloyd garbage.
Okay, there's the show title.
And people will have
Oh
to
my
listen to
gosh.
what that means because
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a trigger. I mean, some people are going to be like, yeah, and then
What?
they're going to listen and be disappointed. And
You're
then
like,
other
"Oh,
people are going to be
man."
like, that's blasphemous. And
exactly. We're going to sharpen our pitchforks and get our torches and find this Cormac Fallon.
canceled.
So, with that odd pronunciation of my name, there's a couple of like things that we need to talk about. You and I have both been away from our home bases. And
Yes,
so I want to talk about that. But I traveled back to Baltimore for our office collaboration day, which was a great time, getting to basically have a big office meeting, 2-day office meeting with a lot of different events and talking about strategic plan and business plans and moving forward. But oh my gosh.
Do all the offices come together?
Yeah,
Do all three offices come together? Okay.
All 3 offices and all of the remote employees all come together.
So did you get to meet Slade in person?
So Slade, I did not get a chance to meet. And the reason I didn't get a chance to meet Slade is because Slade was getting married. I mean, likely excuse, but whatever.
Right. This is architecture.
Exactly.
All that other stuff comes.
I was like, has he not learned yet that family second? Architecture's your bride.
Right.
No, actually, I'm rather excited for him. And so we'll get an opportunity to meet him in person. It'll happen.
It only took us 3 years to
exactly
meet in person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
See, so, but my gosh, how many times I heard my name incorrectly pronounced. And then what was even better.
This is what readers do. They guess. If you read a word and you don't know how it's you make up your own and you go with it.
So my favorite one is we were having, he's never going to listen to this, so I'm just going to go ahead and tell this story. But so for going on 10 years now, I've worked at Air St. Gross and worked on several projects next to Adam Gross, who is retiring this year, and had this fantastic presentation about the history of Air St. Gross, which I'm going to wax poetic about, like the need for understanding about like architectural history and all of this other stuff a little bit later if I do it all. But I swear there has not been a single day that he has ever pronounced my name correctly to the point where...
It's only 10 years. Yeah.
It's only 10 years. So I jokingly said, I'm kind of glad you're retiring because at least I might be able to regain my name and its correct pronunciation. He's like, what? Nice. I've been saying it wrong this whole time?
Nice passive-aggressive move right there. That's good.
Like, come on now. Like, first of all, it's not Cormac. It's Cormac.
A lot of people say Cormac.
Which, okay, if it's Cormac.
Well, I mean, Big Mac, Cormac, let's go with it.
Wow. But there's this weird... So when I was in Alabama, I sort of learned to kind of dislike my name a little bit. Cormac and things like that. But here's a Ivy League educated, Syracuse educated fellow from Connecticut, and he butchers my name as bad as anyone in Alabama did. It's Cormac.
Have you never corrected him before?
I did, but let me. So how many times do people?
Well, I mean, his name's on the door.
How many? Yes, I've corrected him on it. Oh, this is how I used to do. You want to talk about passive aggressive? This is how I used to do it. And he would be talking and then say, and Cormac, but it was this weird kind of like slight hesitation between the core and the Mac.
A little bit of a space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, or Mick. And thankfully all of the people that I did it to, they knew my name. But then there was a group of my friends who knew my name in the office who would purposely do a Adam Grossism pronunciation of my name.
They were taking sides right there.
Oh yeah. They were just like, hey, Cormac.
Yeah. I can see this push to button. This is good. I might start doing this.
Yeah. Well, guess what? Then I am going to teach you how sharp a Blackwing pencil can actually get.
You're like really far away from me right now. Right now.
It's in the mail.
Yeah.
It's in the mail.
I'm sure it's in the mail right alongside the still unopened coffee. Haven't opened it yet. I did get a text message from Kurt, no longer, it used to be known as Coffee Boy, formerly known as Coffee Boy. How was the coffee? I'm like, I'll let you know when I try it.
Exactly.
It'll be a while. I have at least a year to open that bag.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Well, that's how long it took it to show up, so.
I'll give you a review a year from now.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, how long was our When was our 300th?
July of 23.
Oh, so well over a year you have.
Well over a year.
What's the shelf life on that?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I mean, it's in a vacuum sealed bag, so I should be okay. Let's see if it actually. I doubt it has a date on it. Yeah, it was produced June 12th, I assume, of this year.
Oh, so you said that we recorded that when? Oh, June 12th.
July of 23, and this is June 12th. I assume it's 2024.
Okay.
Who knows? I
was trying to
I don't know
rationalize
anything about the
whether or not
coffee
he
making process. Maybe he's had it since before that recording. Yeah. Maybe it's June of 2012.
I think he had it out of spite. Just kept saying, nah.
He was hoarding it.
Exactly. But
right.
But so it was good because I got a chance to do a site visit on my Hopkins downtown Baltimore project, which, looking from afar and
you
people
just sent me like this liminal space photo, and I'm like, what is that, Hopkins?
Yes.
I feel pretty good that I just pulled that out of nowhere.
Exactly. But it is, it's actually looking good. I'm not there's no shade to throw. It's actually looking really good. The thing about it is, though, there's our entry vestibule.
But no total architecture critique right now.
I don't know if it's a but per se.
Great. But
well, okay. So here's the but. We've been looking at and talking about certain things about our entry vestibule for quite some time, and I keep looking at it on paper. And I'm like, God, I hope this doesn't feel like a really small space. But I go to that space and I'm like, wow. This is a lot bigger than I thought it was. Like,
isn't that how it always is? I mean, you look at these things on freaking 2D screens forever.
Yes.
And you're like, oh, it's this. It's going to feel like this. Look, I put a little person in there. I can. No.
Yes.
When you go there in person, it's like, oh my God, this is way bigger than I thought.
Mm-hmm. Or you're like, oh, it was exactly as small as I thought it was going to be.
Well, maybe because you're remote, you couldn't do this, but was this the kind of thing that anybody like put a VR headset on? Because I feel like that actually does translate scale rather well.
We did. Well, we did early on, especially for the client to kind of do some walkthroughs and things like that. But
you guys had a lot of space requirements, right? Like the floor to floor was not, because this was a adaptive reuse.
Yes.
in some use of that.
It is very much an adaptive reuse. And in fact, actually, we had this conversation while I was there, trying to basically identify that this is the largest adaptive reuse project that our office has done at well over 500,000 square feet of space. Lots.
I think we need to come up with our own version of square feet. And there was this great YouTube channel for a long time called Donut Media that did a lot of car stuff, and they always said Hirschpers instead of horsepower. So maybe we have our version for square feet or something instead of square feet, which sounds square foots. Yeah,
square footses.
That's square footsies. That's a lot of square footses.
That's a lot of square footses.
You adaptive reused.
Yes,
that's awesome.
And in the lobby space, there's this donor sponsored art wall that's going in that kind of traverses, kind of like pulls once you get into the lobby space through our very generously sized entry vestibule, and then you turn in. You are kind of like face to face with this really amazing art wall, but the art wall then kind of creeps up the stairs in the lobby, and these big grand stairs, and then it transforms into this like triple height space. It's when I'm now seeing the space transform, and I've seen this in renderings 1,000 times over the course of at least the past 5-6 years. To see it coming to shape, it's amazing. The space is actually going to be pretty amazing. That's cool. It's big. It's grand. It is. Yeah. It's easy sometimes, especially on projects that take a very long time, to sometimes dump on them because of how long it's taking. It's like, oh my gosh, this project is never going to end. Honestly, it's been kind of exciting. And maybe it's because I'm not in the day-to-day CA, which I kind of feel sad about because I actually love doing CA. But because I'm not on the day-to-day CA and kind of like just seeing it periodically as it evolves, it's been pretty amazing to actually see it like, oh, yeah, that detail worked. So
that's cool.
That it's
you
been
guys had like a serious, that's the right word. I mean, it's like you guys had this scramble at the last, right? Because it was like an adaptive reuse of an adaptive reuse.
Yeah, and
programming was uncertain.
Programming was interesting. Program is honestly still going on, to this day. So like one of my main tasks on the project is to reprogram. We've reprogrammed practically every lab space that we had designed as a generic lab space because they just didn't have users at the time. And so that evolved into, hey, we've got users, and they range from mechanical engineering to imaging to MES to brain and pain and all of these other different things. And so they're literally like every floor has a very specific demand that is different from the other. And when we originally designed them, every single floor was the same. And so we have 3 wings, and each wing has a different person. And so we have to concentrate on picture this. All of our design changes are being handled through ASIs. Remember the architectural supplemental instructions? So they're being handled through those. And so we're constantly basically reissuing per floor an ASI that is essentially a new bid package, a new and then it has to make of each floor.
Like bidding out separately?
Well, it still goes to the same in the CM in all of the contractors on there have them, but it are on the contract, but it's just basically you send it out and they give you their new change order cost. And so it's just this kind of like ongoing thing. It's interesting. It honestly, with COVID and everything else, it was sort of one of those necessary evils that was what we were going to do because they didn't have the users lined up. It would have probably been something that if COVID never happened, might have happened a lot sooner, but it is what it is. And so that's where we're at now. And what's fun and exciting is it is the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, right. Kind of.
Yeah.
Kind of gift.
But I mean,
kind of gift.
This is where I enjoy, thrive, and have fun sitting down with the users and really kind of just picking their brains as what do you do? And what do you do with this space? And how can we envision this space for you?
It's interesting. I had a conversation earlier today with, I don't know if you know Matt Crissell. He's at Perkins and Will. He used to be at Kieran Timberlake.
Okay.
He teaches at Carnegie Mellon in the architecture department, one seminar a year. Super smart guy. Got to meet him for a few minutes at the last AIA convention in DC that we were at.
Okay.
And recorded a podcast episode today about his course that he's teaching. And it's about kind of designing a architectural practice. So coming at it from a different angle.
Okay.
But he talked about, he's a principal at Perkins and Will and leading their Philadelphia studio. And he talked about how a lot of times when, as an architect, you're interviewing a user group or a particular person about something, they have this kind of version of what they think they do. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he's very much like, show me. Like, let's go to your space and show me, which isn't always possible, granted, right? But it's like, he says, a lot of times what users think they do and what they actually do are two completely different things.
Oh, yeah.
And you kind of need to see both because, I mean, and I didn't get a chance to bring this up with him, but I've experienced this myself, which is what their vision of how they want to work is usually a complete reaction to how they work now.
Yes.
And it's usually the opposite. It's like, I don't have this. I want all of that.
Right.
I can't do it this way. I want to do it exactly the opposite way. And because they really they've spent so much time in their current space and they really know the constraints and they really know the limitations, and they want to do better. They want to do more. They want to do things differently. but it is so black and white. Like it
Yeah.
is so different than what they have now. And it's like, really? Like, do you, because then is the next time that they do it going to be a complete reversal, right? Back down to where they were.
So we've had those conversations with a few folks where we've gone into their space and we've seen the way that they work, and honestly somewhat aghast, slightly appalled at like the conditions that they have and that they're working,
because
that's
so
just
long to modernize anything.
Yeah, and that's just what it. So when we're talking about this, it's like, oh well, I don't really know what we'll do with all of this space, or they'll be like, hey, you're showing me this single person office, and we want to try to fit like 3, 4, or 5 people in there, and you're like, well, it's not that big, right? I mean, we can't fit that many people in this. It's like, oh well, we do it now, so why can't we do it here?
That question.
That is no. That is totally a question that I actually will bring up with them. Is like, well, and then
you can
have to have the conversation with them about what code allows and what code doesn't allow, and not really specifically saying, oh, by the way, your space and the way that you've set it up does not meet code 1 iota.
Yeah,
but there have been a few that have been kind of
do what they can with what they have, right? I mean, and they're not consulting the building code. Let's just say that.
Exactly. They're consulting their needs and what their needs are. Mm-hmm. The good thing is that there's a little bit of flexibility in this space for them, in certain areas for them to grow. In other areas, we've also learned that no matter how much planning that you do ahead of time and how much time you spend talking to them about how they will be using the space that they're about to move into, once they move into it, they change it all.
Oh, right.
Like, maybe we should do here. Maybe
any
we should.
Teacher's classroom in a K-12 school.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. When we used to do that, and I'm sure you did the same thing, it's like, if you're going to get any pictures of this project, do it before the teacher moves in.
Photograph it before they move in.
Yes, exactly.
Absolutely.
Or be married to a teacher that was working on a project, and then we set her room up. We, as in the firm, set her room up for her so that we could take photographs of it.
Right.
And then, of course, later on she changed it, but at least the soul of what we did, what we envisioned the room to be, was semi there for about
she felt some
6
obligation
weeks.
To you, maybe.
Probably. I doubt it. I don't.
So this all firm meeting, is there anything else that happened there that was cool?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about leadership change. We talked about retirements. There's a lot of, and this is the third, this is called a collaboration day. And so this was the third collaboration day since I've been there. COVID kind of got in the way of some of them. And then
10 years, 3 collaboration days. That's not a great track record.
No. We don't, they're not yearly. It's not a yearly thing.
Yeah. It is weird though, right? Like when you have multiple offices, like they just operate independently.
Yes.
It's hard to get everybody together.
Exactly. And pricey.
Oh yeah. For sure.
So that's why we typically do them 1 every 3 years. What's interesting is just the fact of having a conversation, kind of re-solidifying that, yes, there's a lot of change happening, but then there's a lot that we see is here, we're going to hold this steadfast, and in other areas where we recognize that we need to grow as a firm and change as a firm, and to have those open conversations, those open dialogues. I mean, there didn't seem to be a shy voice in the audience.
And why was that? Why do you think that is? Is it because opinions are strong?
Opinions are strong.
Safe environment to actually voice your concerns?
Yes, all of the above. We're an ESOP, and we're all owners. And so people want to know, what are we doing with our firm? What are you doing with my firm, kind of thing. And I was glad to see that people weren't shy and weren't quiet. You'll get a kick out of this. And so a few days prior to me flying into Baltimore to do this, they reached out and they asked, me and a fellow podcaster that she has her own show. They were like, hey, we're going to be talking about the strategic plan with the leadership, the president, the new president, the current president, and the new president of the company. We're going to be talking about the future and all this other stuff. would you guys be interested in kind of emceeing this discussion and having it more kind of like what we're doing right now, having it to be a little bit more discussion, having it open and comfortable, being able to like have these questions that not only we ask, but also everybody that is in the audience to ask and stuff. And so it was kind of fun because I sort of operated a little bit of Archispeak on the stage, and Caitlin Brady, who operates Architect.net, who another great podcast. If you guys haven't heard it, go check it out. But
plug,
yeah, sweet little slide of a plug in there. So, but we were kind of like bouncing back and forth, and it was kind of funny though. It was like as we were asking questions, it felt kind of natural. She's just kind of like glanced over at me. It's like, all right, you take the next one, or do you got anything, or and vice versa. It was just like, hey,
you guys had your own kind of body language conversation going on. Like,
it worked.
Who's taking this one?
Exactly. It
Totally.
worked. It worked really well. It was very comfortable.
Nice.
I'm not a big fan of like sitting up on stage and having this. I mean, I'm comfortable sitting here privately in my house with you, in your house privately, and just having this conversation. And when you ask me to go up on stage, depending on like what it is, I can be comfortable.
Yeah.
Getting in front of clients, it's funny. It's like, it's totally different. I can get in front of clients
You're doing
and just
work.
like, I'm doing work. It's what I do. Like, and so, but it was so seamless. I kind of just slid right into it. We were no nerves, no nothing. I'm like, hey, this literally is almost another episode of either Archispeak or Architect.net. So it was like awesome.
Nice. Cool.
So it was kind of fun. Everybody's just like, I didn't know you had a podcast. I'm like, dude, seriously, it's even in my bio.
Don't you read my bio?
Exactly.
Jeez.
Yeah. So if we get a spike from people in Baltimore, then it means that people in my own office are finally checking out something that I've been doing for at least, let's see, 10 out of the, 10 of the 10 years that I've been working there.
The whole time that
I've been there.
Right.
So.
Did you all know that Cormac does a podcast?
Yeah. He does it from the comfort of his own home back in the holler. So speaking of which, you were away and you went somewhere. Where'd you go?
I did. I went to sunny San Diego.
What was going on there?
It was Autodesk University. Turns out once again, it wasn't in Vegas this year. It was it wasn't in Vegas 2 years ago either. It was in New Orleans, which I did not go to that one, but it was back in Vegas last year. And they had me come to that, and then they invited me back this year as a member of the press,
awesome.
Of the podcasting press. Yeah, it was.
I must have missed that invite.
Yeah, it wasn't for this podcast.
Yeah.
It was for the architecture and technology podcast that I do.
All right.
Did you know I have another podcast, Cormac? It's in my bio.
Oh, I must not have read that.
So I would say the highlight, though, was a quick little field trip. I was supposed to go to the Salk. That part got canceled. Lame. But
Though you've
I
been
did
there.
get to go to, I've been there. I went to UCSD and got to visit Geisel Library once again.
Yes,
I think I sent you a picture of that.
You sent me a picture of that, and I would. That's another one that's on the bucket list.
Should I share my screen?
Absolutely, if you got it.
Could you play some interlude music while I figure this out? Have you seen this building before?
I have seen it only in pictures, only in my dreams. I do very much want to go there.
So this is a William Pereira building. I don't know the year, but I'm guessing it's the 60s. I think it opened in the early 70s.
Yeah.
And the idea behind this building, so for those of you who are listening, look up Geisel Library. If you don't know how to spell that, you can click the link that we have provided in the show notes, so you can see it there.
And Geisel is who?
Geisel is it Theodore? I think it's Theodore Seuss Geisel. Does that give you any clues?
Doctor of the Seuss?
The Dr. Seuss, yes.
Yes.
That is Dr. Seuss.
So if you can't spell it, just look up Dr. Seuss Library.
Dr. Seuss Library at UCSD.
Exactly.
Right. This is kind of a cool view. Looking back at this art installation on another building across the
awesome, actually.
the divide, and it's this little blue house that is kind of tilted and crookedly installed on the corner of another
and
building.
Cantilevered off of a
totally
building.
cantilevering out. And I guess no wall or floor or anything in this little thing is flat or straight or level. And it's fully furnished, but it's a really cool little art installation of a little blue house that's back on the corner. Anyway, the idea behind this building is that it's like these hands. I'm going to do it here, holding the books, because it's a library.
Yeah.
And from the outside, obviously, this is an extremely impressive building. William Pereira was obviously a lover of the brutalism, and this building is a pretty exquisite example of that. And I wonder how functional this is as a library in today's day and age. And what's interesting is it's been expanded upon underground around it. So this building remains in this kind of iconic stature, this position, and they've expanded down and out underneath it. So it kind of maintains its presence on the campus. Cool.
Let me just throw this out there. It's kind of interesting because I just recently visited a library in D.C., the Folger Shakespeare Library, and there was an expansion that was done there. And because this was I think it was built in the 20s, 30s, but it was more of a classical building. It was expanded underneath, and it was kind of expanded out and underneath. And so there was this complete, kind of almost like either they turned in basement space into a usable functioning museum space, but then they also kind of expanded out and kind of ripped up their old front lawn and rebuilt it with a big double volume museum and stuff. And so I've seen kind of that philosophy. And even at the Arch, thank you, the St. Louis Arch.
Yeah, your mind.
You're right, you did. That kind of showed this kind of weird to I can't go up with it, so why don't I go under it?
Yeah.
All right, that's a choice.
At great expense.
At great expense, yes. Yeah.
But the thing about visiting it this time, and I mean, San Diego the weather's pretty nice most of the time, right? It was cloudy the couple days before this. When we got here, it was just freaking perfect. It was golden hour.
Yeah.
And it's just that time of year,
blue
right?
skies,
it's
just
late
enough
October.
clouds.
Right, just enough clouds to define it.
Yeah.
And the lighting is just gorgeous, and this is a cool view. This is actually the real entry to the building, which I had never been through before. I don't remember how I got into the building, but I didn't go this way. And so so you're actually a level below the plaza. So you go down a set of stairs to get to this point, which is this is along a main axis on the campus.
So is this part of the expansion, or was this the original entry?
I believe this is part of the original entry. Don't quote me on that because I didn't ask, but it feels very like this has been here for a long time, and the expansion is kind of to the left of this. So where I was standing in the previous photos, I was actually on top of the expansion at that point. So it's this nice kind of park-like roof with a lot of planting and stuff, and then there's these light wells that pop up, these really acute angled glass. They kind of look like shards kind of sticking up to get light down in various locations into the underground portions. But this is a great use of the ultra wide lens on the iPhone, right?
Yeah,
because
exactly.
This is super skewed,
yeah.
But it just looks so cool.
It looks like the
this.
hull of a ship coming towards you.
Totally. It's it's like this giant cruise ship that's going to literally run you over.
Yeah.
It's very cool. So, and in this library, I think it's 5 or 6 stories above ground and 2 or 3 stories below ground. So I think I'm actually entering here on the second level, because the third level, I believe, is ground level, and then it's 5 levels up. So it's 5 up, 3 down from the original pictures. It's 2 more levels down from here. So they've done a lot of work over the years to kind of expand it. Obviously, the university has expanded in enormous ways over the years as well.
Couldn't power wash the thing.
It's brutalism. You don't wash brutalism. There's that little house again. Very cool. But this is in this. There's these stair cores, and you can tell this was the 70s. There's literally no guardrails in here, and this is 8 floors of a winding stair with no guardrails, and it's all just handrail height.
All handrail height, but no true handrail.
Yeah, it's
that
just the
meets
top
code.
rail.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just the top rail. It's not like in the stairwell at all. It's just right on top of the tread of the stringers. Yeah, crazy. So maybe an upgrade in the future. I don't know.
Maybe.
The most impressive parts of this library are all on the outside. It's all about the outside of this library. You go inside, the floor-to-floor height is not very large. It feels kind of, like stacks go almost all the way to the ceiling. So it's just like rows and rows and rows of books. And there's obviously views out at those glass planes, but it's like they've loaded this thing with books. So it feels kind of oppressive on the inside, I have to say.
Does it? Did you take any photographs on the inside?
I did not. There were a lot of students in there. I did not want to take any pictures in there.
Understandable.
And we were kind of asked to kind of go in and not
disturb,
stand out, not be architects. It was pretty impossible.
How many people
just in this cool building?
How many people were hugging the concrete?
I touched it. I gave it. I didn't hug it. I might have been the only one. I don't know. I don't know if people were into it.
You just look at those like kind of very sculptural re-entrant corners and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, and then the waffle slab. Does that waffle slab translate into the building? Into the ceiling?
You can't see it.
You can't
see it.
Okay.
No. Maybe you can right at the glass, but everything has a drop ceiling in there.
In those,
but you can walk fully underneath this thing, and you can you get a little bit of it here, but on the right you can see like the rounded corners of the board form concrete core, and that goes all the way up through the whole building, and that's where I was rubbing concrete on the inside. It's awesome.
I'm trying to put myself into the head of the concrete guy that was forming it.
Maybe they got somebody from one of Sarana's project, and they're like, "Yeah, we can totally do that."
I'm sure. I mean, it was just you look at it and you're just like, look at the rigor of the board forming on this. It is it looks perfect.
Yeah, nice.
You see the board forms on the columns and these piers that then go into these.
The fingers.
We want to call them. I was gonna, for some reason, I wanted to call them buttresses. Maybe just because I just wanted to say buttress.
Yeah.
But they're not really buttresses per se.
Yeah, they're these really cool
Are they
fingers.
brutalist?
They're kind of like tree branches. If you think of this thing like the
is.
trunk in the middle, and then these tree branches go up and kind of hold the floor plates.
It definitely
feels
cool. In some angles, you definitely can read that kind of that idea of the hands holding the books, and then others you see the tree house.
And it's kind of surrounded. You can see in this photo, like in the background, there's a lot of these really beautiful eucalyptus trees that are really, they're everywhere on the campus, but also in the La Jolla area. So, but contextually, you get that idea that this building is linking with the landscape in that way.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it is a brutalist building, and it is like this heavy thing that it doesn't feel like it's crushing the earth because of the form that they've done.
No,
it feels very light for a brutalist building.
Yeah, it's floating up. There's nothing about this that feels heavy like a typical brutalist building, but it definitely looks, feels, reads, and is a brutalist building. But it is probably one of the lightest feeling brutalist buildings I've really ever seen.
And I would say what adds to that is this lighting. Right?
Yeah.
Like this perfect day, because it's so warm, and the concrete is warm. It's not cold. Like when you look at it right here, it just feels warm and kind of inviting, right? Whereas I think a lot of brutalist buildings, or just concrete in general, feels very cold and kind of off-putting for a lot of people. So but they aren't fans of this show, those people.
Yeah, and the cool thing is
so
that when you
good angles,
yeah,
this building is so photogenic. It's just like,
I agree with you.
And you look at it, and it is totally symmetrical, right? It's like design one side and rotate array copy 3 more times, right?
Exactly.
And but it's still like you can just find these really cool angles. Here's a bronze statue of Dr. Seuss and the character of the Grinch there, I believe. And
you know what?
Pretty cool. This is out in front.
You should be fired.
Or is this the Cat in the Hat?
That's the Cat in the Hat.
Thanks. Yeah, I should have known that.
I'll edit that. No, I won't edit that out. I won't.
Yeah, Evan's an idiot. This proves it.
But
then I started taking these more detailed shots, and I thought, okay, this is kind of, you know,
this.
Okay, so this is my 5x zoom on the new iPhone, which I am freaking loving.
Yeah,
because I can zoom
totally
in and
agree
get
with
shots like this, and again, you see the reentrant corners on the corner mullions of the glazing, and
but
like,
look at the way that
normally you just pick up.
Look at the way that the reflection reads all of the overhangs.
Yeah, they look like cuts, right?
But they look like cuts. They look like it's kind of a figure ground kind of feel to it.
So you're in for a treat, my friend, because I noticed that too. And then I stepped back.
Of course you did.
And
I think you said
now this building
you sent me
looks,
one of the. Oh my gosh, it looks.
This building looks a third of the weight of what you would normally experience because of that, right? Because of the like mirror-like reflections that the glazing is providing with the overhangs, and all of a sudden now it looks like cuts in the building, and it looks like Swiss cheese.
And it looks even lighter. It almost looks like it's got a sunroof on it.
Yeah.
And so we definitely are going to have to put some of these in the show notes, as well as anybody who might watch the video. You'll be able to see some of these, and then your nice little stylized ones. I liked these. They're almost, this definitely feels to me, when you did this and you sent this and also posted this, it felt like, ooh, this is going to be one of those book covers talking about the Geisel library.
This is just so this is on your in the newest version of the Photos app on the iPhone. There's all these photographic styles, right?
Yeah.
Most of those styles don't make sense for any photograph,
except for this
one. But on a brutalist building,
oh my gosh,
those are,
look at this,
wicked cool to use.
Look at those beautiful hard shadows that just kind of like form almost this like rolling waves.
And you can see all the dirt on the windows, and it doesn't even matter. Like,
no, exactly. Well, the cool thing is one of the shots, like this shot here, that is reflecting the sky.
The sky.
It makes it feel so light. There is, yes, the base. If you start to think about the center core of it, it feels heavy, but it doesn't ever really feel heavy. Again, it doesn't feel heavy because of the lightness of all of the columns that form the colonnade.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Like the true core is minimized in the middle of the building and pulled back from the buttress that's flying down, right?
Exactly.
And as that creates that colonnade out front. And so, I mean, all of these things really do contribute together to make the whole composition.
So I'll say that anytime talking about architecture or certain type, like if you go to like a Gothic cathedral or something, when I was like walking around with my sons, of course, the second I say buttress, they're like, buttress.
That's where it came from. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just
they got it from you, Dad.
They loved, well, they just thought that buttress was the funniest word.
It is.
So
it is the funniest word. Anyway.
No,
that was the highlight of the technology conference right there.
So you go to Autodesk,
a 1970s brutalism building.
So you go pre-AutoCAD. That was all hand drafted. So there's like nothing about that building. That was pure handcrafted, pure hand drawn, pure just like generated out of the mind of the architect and the structural engineer, using slide rules and everything else. So there's nothing about anything that you were learning about how technology makes life easier and all of that other stuff at this conference was on display in this building.
Timeless. It was timeless design. I'm sure people have their gripes about it. But,
sure.
I actually have a Pereira book. I have a Pereira monograph here. I should actually read the story of that project because it would probably enrich my thoughts about it, I'm sure. So one other. So here's a technology thing. This is this is not at the conference, but I'll share my screen one more time here. And this was the car rental area at the San Diego airport. And this is on a 3-story wall, and it's kind of a generative design composition of taillights, right? These are all taillights from a car. And they're laid out in this pattern. And
Do you know what car?
I don't know what car, but because it's a very odd shape. I have no idea, but it's just this giant 3-story wall. It's probably 40 feet tall by 70 feet wide, and it's covered in hundreds of these laid out in a kind of a organic kind of pattern flowy of taillights that are mounted to this wall.
Yeah. So when I was telling you earlier about the kind of that lobby space that we're creating for our building at Hopkins, think about at least a wall area this size that has like part of our art wall and this like art glass installation.
I was thinking of this when you were saying that, so I'm like, oh, I have something to show here.
Exactly, yeah. So once we actually get to that one in 2026,
nice. You can show it.
I can show it.
Architecture projects take too long.
They do.
Jeez.
They do. Wow, they do. Because we were working on the feasibility study of this in 2016. And it's still going. This is honestly hands down the longest project that I've ever worked on. Now I have worked on some like 5-year projects and things like that. And even the Saudi Arabia project that I'm working on, it will, probably end up being total design and construction around 6 years. But this one, through like the process and COVID and everything else, and we worked through COVID, like we were working through COVID on the building, and so it's been a nonstop project since 2016. So it'll definitely be the longest project that I've worked on in my career. And unfortunately, some of our younger staff that started at the firm on this project have yet to experience another project.
Oh my God. Wow.
But they have grown. Oh my gosh. This is like one of those very long, like very protracted, like boot camps. It's just like not 6 months, 6 years.
Protracted boot camp.
Yeah. It's like you.
that's welcome to architecture.
You will never know another building in a world.
Imagine? Could you imagine?
Yeah. In a world
horrible.
Where you have a career that spans one project.
Oh God, that sounds horrid. Oh, well, let's see from there. I mean, I haven't really collected my thoughts on the conference. It had very different vibe being in San Diego than it had in Vegas previous to that. It was definitely more low key for sure. It was not quite as in your face, and it wasn't as Vegas-y.
Is it? So it's been, as you could imagine, Vegas. Then you went to Nolans. Then you went to Vegas again. Yeah. Then is it now like going to be doing that where it then starts to look at one?
I think their goal was to get away from Vegas. I haven't heard any official story, but next year it's in Nashville.
Oh, so, okay. Yeah. Interesting.
I think the goal was to get away from Vegas and move it around
for forever now.
I think I would maybe kind of like, hey, why don't we go to the people instead of the people come to us, or at least make it a little bit easier for some people. There's pros and cons to that, right? Like AIA conferences in a different city every year, right? Yeah. And this one was in the same city every year, and Vegas definitely knows how to do conferences, right? Like they do bread and butter, and the hotels are literally in the conference center grounds, like the Venetian, the Palazzo. They're right there at the Sands Convention Center,
right?
So you don't have to walk or get an Uber or do anything. They got a lot of feedback, I think, from New Orleans that it was like people would be signed up for classes and then realize that they had a 35-minute Uber ride from their hotel, right? Yeah. It was like, oh, crap, we're not going to make it. Where in Vegas, you literally walk out of your room not too far and you're at where all the classes are. And that was pretty easy. Plus, there's just kind of this muscle memory that you build in if you attend every year, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, I know exactly where everything is. And if I go to a different city, I have to figure that out. And that takes time. Like there's a learning curve to every convention center, to every city. So do you think, so for us going to AIA conventions in different cities, it gives us that opportunity to learn different cities and learn new architecture. It gives us that opportunity to visit the city and not go to the conference. I think that's what you're saying. Yeah.
We're not supposed to be talking about that.
Right.
Anyway,
our secret.
Yeah. Shh, don't.
But
don't,
yeah, I mean,
don't-
that's
yeah.
what we do, right? It's like
Right,
you're in a
right.
cool city. You want to experience the city, especially if
Exactly.
you've never been there before.
Well, I
or if
mean,
it's
you
been
just-
a city like New York.
Yeah, you remember
of
when we were
course.
like traipsing all over New York to like, oh, first it's in the Javits Center.
That's what you do.
Now it's here. Now it's, now we got to
It was
like,
at City,
exactly,
and
we
then
got to
it
like
was at-
hoof it down
it
to
was at
Radio
Pratt,
City.
and it was
yeah.
it was all over the place.
And it was cool because then you got to see like some of these like big time venues that most people just hear about. It's like, oh, I've never been to New York. And then they're like,
But logistically,
Yeah.
it's more difficult too, right? So,
yeah, because there was a lot of people huffing it down the streets.
You're
Yeah.
city biking, you're subwaying, you're
Yeah.
taxiing, you're Ubering,
Yep.
whatever. You're doing all that stuff. And
Exactly.
I mean, it wasn't that to that level in San Diego, but there was many hotels near right next to the
Yeah.
convention center, which was fine. And then most of the day you're just at the convention center, and then we got to go out and do this one little field trip.
That's, I mean, you're like, that just one little field trip, that one little
just-
awesome field trip.
Yeah. It was cool.
I mean,
Yeah.
that was kind of
So
cool.
it was fun. It was good for me. Just like I've said on this podcast, every time we've gone to a conference, it's about the people for
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
So I'm not there for the classes. I'm not there for the keynotes as much. I do have to say,
Thank you for inviting me, but I'm going to ignore all of it.
I went. No, I went
know,
to the keynotes.
I know. I'm kidding.
and I will critique the architecture keynote. It was bad. It was not good. And if
Oh.
anybody who's listening saw that, I hope that you
Yeah.
have similar feelings as I did. It needs a lot of help. It was seriously poorly read telepromptering. It was
Yeah.
not good at all. So
As
hate
you can
that.
see
Like,
on the
that's the worst.
PowerPoint that I'm going to read off of, like,
it wasn't words on the screen, but the teleprompters are on the stage and behind us in the
Gotcha.
audience.
Yeah.
And it was a little too much robotic reading and awkward
And
pauses.
here we are going to talk about architecture. And it,
More practice. More
and,
practice.
and it says like, insert hand gesture.
What did Biden do recently? I think there was like in his politicians read the teleprompter
Yeah.
too, and it was like repeat line, because it was like there's like notes in red to repeat the last line to say it again for impact, and he literally read the part that said repeat last line. Oh man, when you rely on it a little too much, this is what happens.
Yeah.
I think we said this at the last AIA conference, though, too. It was there was actually a part where, and I won't name names, but there was a part where somebody said, I need everybody in the audience to sit down so that I can read the teleprompter, right?
Yes. There were a few that you could clearly tell it was just a straight read. The keynotes, they weren't. Like the first day keynote. Why am I blanking on his name? Because I was just
Brooks.
talking about
Arthur Brooks,
which was just
Fantastic.
phenomenal. And then there were a few of the institutional or the institute's leadership that it was a little tough to kind of like, wow, you're reading. And
I mean, there's a lot of pressure to
There
have
is.
a little bit of empathy. There's a lot of pressure to perform well.
yeah,
And then you become reliant on these tools, right? And then you can't do it without the teleprompter all of a sudden, and you don't know what comes next, and you can't read the teleprompter, and it's like, oh crap, what do we do?
So what was interesting is, so like I was telling you that I kind of did the little emceeing. We did the little emceeing, the two podcasters for this thing. And both of us kind of had notes that we had been taking as we were like talking and kind of interviewing, like prepping for all of this. It's just like, what kind of message do we want to talk about? Like what do we want to highlight as part of like this discussion about the strategic plan? How do we humanize it? How to talk about what it means to like the people that live the firm every day.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I had a series of notes, and every so often I would like glance down and say, okay, what am I gonna? And so I'd use it as a prompt, but not a teleprompter where I'm sitting here and holding it up and reading it.
What's
kind
next?
of things.
Sure.
It was just like a little key to like, oh, this is what I'm going to need to say. And then I would just like, I
A
had,
cue card.
yeah, I had a script that I wrote out and then I rewrote it and I rewrote it. And it started to get ingrained into my head of like this. And then, of course, when I said it, it was probably completely different than what I wrote, but it was kind of like the gist of it, which I was just like, hey, I almost gave myself a little pat on the back for that one. I was just like,
Nice.
you did an okay job, pal.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Good job, Cormac. I'll give you a good job.
Thanks.
An
Thanks.
attaboy.
I appreciate it. Wish you were there.
Yeah. Good job.
You're like, I
No,
was like, I was so totally okay in sunny San Diego.
Yes. Well, and then I drove to my mom's house to do another trip of
Stuff.
packing and bringing stuff back up here to Oregon. And then we did the
Palm Springs
16-hour, 820-mile drive in one day.
Wait, 16?
We were going to break it up because
Ugh.
we learned that lesson before. But we were at like hour 10.
Yeah.
And I was like, I feel pretty good. Let's go for it. And she said, okay. And so we did. We left at 8 in the morning. I got home at midnight. That was a long day, man.
That was a long day. Yeah.
Towing a big trailer, towing a big camping trailer. And it's slow going up I-5, all the way up California. All the way.
Totally reminds me of like hey, let's go take the kid. Let's go pack up the truck.
I thought about you.
Yeah. It's just like,
I
remember
about
those
drives that you do.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Dude.
I feel for you.
I just wanted it to be over because I didn't want to spend 2 days doing that.
So let me ask you, when you got to the very end of it, did you start feeling, you're feeling good, and then did you hit that wall of loopiness?
I didn't crash.
Really?
No, I didn't yeah,
Okay.
I didn't physically or crash. I was just so happy to be home, or to be close to be home. I could not wait to be home.
Sometimes, especially when I'm by myself and it's like pitch black and stuff, I'm like,
yeah. You're like leaning forward. You're doing some stretching in the seat,
rolling the window down,
like smacking yourself in the face.
Yeah, sticking your head out the window like a dog.
Wake up!
Like splash.
No, I've never experienced that ever.
No, doesn't sound like it. No.
Yeah. So it's been an eventful month. I have some homework for you, maybe for the next episode. And I need to do this too. Write down all the states you've been to this year. Just this year. I mean, you're on the East Coast. This is easier for you. This is you may have more, but we'll see. We'll see.
Because remember, can I include Canadian provinces as well?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Sure. Places. Yeah.
All right. Remember when I'm
not saying it's a competition, but it might be.
It actually sounds like you're trying to throw a gauntlet down. Challenge
How many can you squeeze in before next week?
I was going to say, let's see. I think I need to go down and visit my sister in Florida.
Yeah. Didn't you already go down there once this year?
Yes.
I think you might. I think you did. Yeah.
So have I pretty much, it's not even pretty much. I think I've hit every state on the Eastern Seaboard this year.
Oh, that's right. Because you went all the way up through Maine and everything. Yep. Jeez. All right. I'm going to declare myself a loser right now.
I'm feeling you might want to. You sure you want to do this? Are you sure?
We talk about the value of getting out of the office and doing this thing. And so we might as well keep score. All right. I'm writing it down. I got a homework assignment here.
All right.
Just states. Yeah.
I can. Well, if you bring your guitar, we'll sing about it. There's Alabama.
I wrote a song about it. Want to hear it? Here it go.
Here it goes.
Yeah.
All right, then. Something to look forward to.
Until next time.
Yeah, absolutely. When we embarrass Evan in his meager, small. Although, here's the thing. You've got the West Coast, so it would be interesting to say how many miles did you do versus how many states did you do?
Yeah.
Because,
well, keep track of mileage. It's too much. Like you can't either. You got too many miles on your car.
Oh, so I got to tell you this because I send you, I take photographs of when I hit the perfect palindrome and then I send it off to you kind of thing. And I looked
The
down
odometer palindrome.
and I looked down and it was 88886. And I'm like, oh, 2 miles. I got to do this. And
Did
then
you remember?
And then I was talking to my daughter, and then I looked, and I'm looking over and all this other stuff, and I'm like, I got to remember this. And then I look back over, and right as I grab the thing, it clicks over to 88889. Damn! I
did
missed
the same
it.
thing recently. I did the same thing recently. I missed it by 1 mile.
I was like, now I have to wait till like 9.
I know.
He
I
was
did
just
the
like,
same thing. I did the same thing. What's the next one?
What's the next milestone?
It's in a while. Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I've gotta.
You'll be there soon enough.
I got to get the kid for both Thanksgiving and for Christmas for winter break. So
why don't they just lump that together? Jeez.
I wish. Honestly, I wish. I could have swore that there was a time when maybe it was during the quarter era.
Well, yeah, we used to get like winter break.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, but it was like 4 or 5 weeks worth. It wasn't just like this little measly, like, hey, we get off in mid to late December because like I'm going to be doing end of year reviews the week of the 19th of December. I'm like, hey, that's nice.
Right.
No one, I didn't sign.
Nice.
I would say I didn't sign up for the. Oh, and I did.
It'll encourage you to keep them short and to the point because you don't want to be working.
I may be a week off on when that is. Roughly, it's like around that like mid-December period. And mid-December.
You're already checked out. Yeah, totally.
Well, I'm hoping they're not.
Right. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Good luck on your
man.
homework.
Yep.